Hey guys, we're here to talk about the supply list for my painting class. So if you are not super familiar with how the art store is laid out, this could be really helpful for you to just see what they look like so you can spot them when you go shopping. I have a receipt here. All in all, it costs $130 for a starter kit to start oil painting for someone who had nothing. Okay, this was with my tax exempt, so you can add another $15 probably for taxes. Nice long list here. I went to Dick Blick. You could just order the same stuff. There are links in the supply list, so you can just click on the link and order online. Might save you having to hunt in the store. However, the store employees will help you find this stuff. If you've got the list, you can show them. So without further ado, let's start with the paint, okay? This is Blick store brand paint. It's the most affordable brand, and I always buy my white in it because titanium white's pretty much the same across most brands of paint. So get the large tube of white. But the other colors, these are 37 milliliter tubes. I recommend just get all the colors in Winton brand because it's a little more high quality than the store brand, and you'll be really frustrated trying to get all the colors you want mixed if you're using the store brand for some of the colors. Especially important if you've already got some oil paints, but you don't have cadmium yellow deep in Winton or a comparable brand. This is the one to invest in because the cheaper brands just don't cut it. They don't have the same staining strength that Winton's cadmium yellow deep hue has. Okay, so you have a warm and cool version of all the primary colors. So you've got a warm yellow and you got a cool yellow. This one is lemon yellow hue, and this one is cadmium yellow deep, both Winton. You've got a warm and cool red. Your warm red is cadmium red hue, and the cool red is permanent rose. Permanent alizarin crimson would also be a good one, but I just like the bubblegum pinks that permanent rose makes a little bit better. Also Winton brand. Okay, the blues, phthalo blue is a solid color to go with for your cool blue. It's nice and dark. But another alternative might be cerulean, but cerulean lacks the depth because it's not as dark coming out of the tube. Next color would be French ultramarine. This is the blue that leans towards red. The other blue, phthalo, leans more towards green and yellow. Okay, so you could also do cobalt would be okay, but French ultramarine is also a nice warm blue. Okay. The next liquidy thing you're gonna need is Gamsol. This is a paint thinner, and what it does is it breaks up the oils out of your paint brushes so that you can clean the oil completely out. And you're gonna take an 8.5 ounce bottle. This is a smaller size. I usually buy the big size. It's almost like a liter, but just to get started, 8.5 ounces is good. Pour about half of it in here. It just needs to go up to the spring that's in there. And then once you have this up to the spring, you can take your paintbrush and you can rub it against that spring without disrupting all the paint sediments that are gonna settle at the bottom. And that keeps your paint thinner, clean, and keeps it from getting all muddy and gross. Okay, cool. Next thing you're gonna need is linseed oil. This is a medium. It changes the viscosity of your paint and it helps it to flow off of a paintbrush. These two paints, they're gonna come out about the consistency of warm butter, which is great for palette knife painting actually. You do nothing to it. You might add something fun like cold wax medium just for shits and giggles, but not necessary. This is great just out of the tube for palette knife painting, but for paintbrushes, you're gonna need to add a medium. So this is refined linseed oil. It's Gamblin brand. I bought it at Blick. It's a 4 ounce bottle. You don't even need that much. This will last forever. This is really messy to put on your palette. So what I recommend is getting an eyedropper. This is an old face serum that I had, and when it was empty, I kept it. But you can buy eyedroppers really cheap that are empty. But yeah, that way, when you got the little eyedropper, you can drop just a little drop of linseed oil in your pile of paint and not have it make a big mess pouring it out of the bottle. A coffee straw would do the same thing, just to grab a little bit of oil and put it where you need it. A little bit goes a long way, okay? We already talked about that. Okay, paintbrushes. If you are taking a palette knife class with me, you really don't need a paintbrush at all, but you might want this little round liner to sign it at the end, unless you are so adept by the end of the class that you can sign your name with a palette knife, which is incredibly difficult to do. I usually just do my initials if I'm gonna sign with a palette knife. Don't recommend it. But if we're doing a class where you need a brush, I would recommend a 1-inch wide flat brush. And this one's like a 1/4 inch wide. It says shader. This one's a round, the pointy one. And then this one, it says wash, 1-inch wash. But yeah, I got these. These are the cheapies. They come in, this came in the variety pack. Sometimes you can get these at Ross for $5, and then you get all these little brushes. And to me, paintbrushes are disposable. Like, I'll use them for a little while, and then they get junked up and I throw them away. Because I'm mostly a palette knife painter, I'm not necessarily a brush painter. So if you paint in brushes all the time, you might invest in some nicer ones. Or one thing I did learn about paintbrushes, because I hate washing them, it's really hard to get all the oil paint out of your brush. If you get some brush cleaner by, I think it's Liquitex or Winton, I think, you can also just get 90% rubbing alcohol, put it in a cup, and just leave your brushes sitting in it for an hour or overnight even, and then take them to the sink and wash them with dish soap, like Dawn dish soap, and that'll take pretty good care of them. And they'll last a long time if you do that. If you let the oil paint dry in the paintbrush on accident, sometimes you can save it with the rubbing alcohol overnight, leaving it sit in there. Sometimes it's just a goner and you gotta throw it away and get a new paintbrush. So that's that. You might be wondering, how do you clean a palette knife? Well, you need a razor. So just go get yourself a little scraper with a razor in it, and you just scrape the paint off when it's dry. But better than that would be to take some old t-shirt rags and just wipe all the paint off and get it clean when you're done painting, and then that way you don't have to use the razor the next time you want to paint. Okay, moving on. Did I talk about these? No. This is Blick brand. It says 20 on it. It's about 1 inch long. The tip is a little round, which is kind of a good thing. I like the Liquitex one also. That's about this size, 1 inch long, but it's pointy at the tip. And I use that for really tiny details that I want to get precise. I'll use the Liquitex one. Blick doesn't seem to make an itty bitty pointy one, but Liquitex does. Okay, this one says 57 on it, and it's round at the tip. Round ones are helpful when you want to apply paint without scraping paint off, because a pointy tip will sometimes scrape paint and remove paint when you're trying to apply paint. If you have a slick surface that doesn't have a lot of tooth to hold on to the paint, sometimes that point will just scratch it off. I like this one. It's more diamond shaped. It says 46, it's by Blick. This creates nice, smooth, straight lines. So I use this one a lot. For my medium-sized paintings, like 16 by 20 or 18 by 24, I'll use this size a lot. For really big paintings, you could even get a palette knife this long to do maybe a large area like the sky, big, thick, expressive, efficient strokes. So big palette knife for mixing piles of paint, but also for painting large areas. Little palette knife for detail work like little areas. So that's why I recommend getting different sizes. Okay, last but not least, you're gonna need, and this is important, an artist palette. It seals up, okay? When you go to the store, it's gonna have this on it. It says Masterson Art Products, okay? And then this is just packaging, you throw that away. It's a blue lid, white box. Open that up. And then inside of that, you are going to put this Gray Matters palette paper palette. It's by Jack Richardson. And both of these, this is 12 by 16. It's made to go inside this box. Take the top sheet off, the packaging, and then you can see that it's gray. Don't get the white one. You need the gray one, okay? Buy the gray one that says Jack Richardson Gray Matters paper palette. On the back side of this, keep this, it's a chart. And this chart has a value scale, which is really helpful for some bonus exercises you might do at home that I can give you in class. And then this color wheel can be helpful if you're not super oriented with color theory. This is really going to help you visualize mathematically what colors neutralize other colors, where they're located on the color wheel, etc. But one other really nice thing about this is it tells you for each color the pigments that you need to achieve these colors. So like what we bought, this cadmium yellow deep here, it's listed on there, okay, by the warm yellow. And then there's alternatives, although I would definitely say cadmium yellow deep is the best one, but it gives you some alternatives. One that doesn't matter as much would be like the lemon yellow. So it says you could also do cadmium yellow light, Hansa yellow, or azo yellow. So if you wanted to try some alternative pigments, you could refer to this wheel and try different things, okay? However, I will say that with this split primary palette, you can make pretty much any color under the sun and not need to buy every tube of paint at the art store. If you're an overachiever and you got an extra 60 bucks, okay, and then you know that's kind of a lot of money, but one of my favorite colors is Chartreuse by Gamblin. It will increase the saturation of your lighter, warmer colors, which sometimes get a little bit chalky when you lighten them with white, and then that cadmium chartreuse will put the zest back in there. And then for dark colors that you want to make a really deep, warm brown or something, and you're trying to make brown, you need yellow to make brown, but yellow's light. So if you want to warm it up without making it lighter, you can get a transparent orange by Gamblin. I know that the chartreuse is probably like a $30 tube of paint for just a little 37 ounce thing, but they last a really, really long time. Palette knife painting, you go through a lot of paint, but just a tiny drop of that chartreuse will influence a large pile of paint, so you don't go through it as fast. And honestly, that's about it. When you come to my class, you do not need to bring a canvas or any surfaces to paint on. However, if you wanted to take notes or make color charts beyond what we're doing in class, you could bring a little canvas pad here. This is helpful for practicing, and all it is just, it's paper that is primed and ready for oil paint. Make sure it says on there, oil, okay? It says acid-free for practice with oil and acrylic paints. Make sure it can handle oil, okay? Because if it's just regular paper, the oils will leach down into the fabric and it will kind of rot it out. It'll go rancid. So you have to have special paper that's primed to handle the oil. Okie dokie. You might be wondering, why the heck do I need a box, okay? Well, you're gonna have to get your paint home, right? Without ruining your car interior. So this lid goes on here. Then you can travel with your wet paint. I have like 6 of these in the studio, and I will say if you can afford to get 2 of these, do it, because one of them can be where you house your colors. You mix them up and they live in there. And the other one can be a working surface, okay? I only take 8 students in each class so that you have lots of room to spread out. So you'll have room for lots of stuff, okay? The other reason that I love this box is because oil doesn't dry, okay? It's not water-based. There's no water to evaporate out, so it has a curing process. Oil has to have heat and oxygen in order to cure or dry. So if you put the lid on it, you're depriving the paint of oxygen and airflow, and you put it in a freezer, then you're depriving it of the heat. So if you put this lid on it, stick it in the freezer, your paint will stay wet indefinitely until you're ready to use it again. I will say maybe I got like a thin skin on the top of it, but that was probably because I put stand oil on it. Sometimes that gets a nice thick skin on the pile of paint on top, which I don't love. But yes, people with day jobs like I used to have, I used to be a full-time teacher, and I only had 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 9 or 10 at night to paint, and then I had to stop and go to bed. So this really preserves all that work I did in mixing my colors so that it was still good for me to use the next day. And that's it, folks. So I hope you enjoyed my little video about supplies. I can't wait to see you in class. If you have any questions, please email me through my website, vanessalacy.com, or my email, vanessajadelacey@gmail.com. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you in class.